Hello everyone, Adam here, and welcome to another gameplay review video. Today we're playing Kerbal Space Program. It probably won't come as a surprise if you've been watching my channel recently. I've been fascinated with space travel ever since I was a little kid, so when this game popped up in front of me, I've just haven't really played much else since, to be honest. Today I thought I'd do some commentary since I have the chance to, and I'm just going to go right through the basics of building a spacecraft and at least putting it into orbit, hopefully. Um, the first thing when you're playing Kerbal Space Programs, you need to select what your main payload is and the control it's going to use. So you've really got the option of sending astronauts into space, or you can also send some probes, which is kind of just robotically controlled. And it's important to get it right straight away because you only get one chance to select this at the start of the construction process, and if you change your mind halfway through, you have to start again. But half the time it doesn't really matter, especially if you're just messing around like today. So I've gone with the three-man module, and I've put some fuel on it to start with, and I've put an engine on it. Um, just quickly go through the centre of mass and the centre of thrust. Centre of lift isn't going to be important because we're going to get out of the atmosphere as quick as we can and be done with it. But the centre of mass and the centre of thrust is important because if they become unaligned, so if the centre of mass was here and the thrust is still central, it's going to kind of spin around the mass. So you want to have those as clean as possible, otherwise you are going to tilt as you accelerate. Um, Another thing to keep in mind is something called delta V. If you're not into physics or maths, uh, as far as you're concerned, all it means is if you have a bunch of fuel and you expel it through a rocket, and you start off at 0 meters a second to in relation to whatever you're relating yourself to. You can say if you got up to a delta V of 1,000 meters a second, that's how fast you'll be travelling away or in relation to that object once you've expelled all of the fuel. Just assuming there's no atmosphere or anything or any drag to stop you. That's basically all it is. You don't have to worry about anything else other than that. Um, and of course, with most rockets that you'll see nowadays, they have different stages. And the reason they have different stages is really because if you had one huge rocket and it was full of fuel, halfway through burning it off, what you've got is half an empty tank and it's just waste of space. So if you can cut it in half and throw it away, you've got less extra mass to take with you and extra weight. So you need less fuel to do whatever you want to do. As it's hard to explain in words, it's probably best if I just go ahead and demonstrate this. See what I've done here is this is going to separate different stages, and later on I'm going to, after I organise them, uh, you have to get them in the right order. Otherwise, I've done it a few times. I haven't really concentrated, and bits will be flying off here, there, and everywhere. So that is something you do want to get right first time. There we go. That's a simple enough rocket. Probably won't even get into orbit, but I think it's worth just showing people what this is going to be capable of. And when you start, it's just going to drop wherever it is. So we have things like this to keep it stable just prior to the engines being ready for liftoff, just to stop you potentially falling over. Obviously, because it's a simulation, it does plonk it perfectly, exactly in the dead centre. But you, I think you can see why you wouldn't want that to happen. Though it's just dodgy. Okay, it's just dodgy. So you'll find with this rocket, it's going to be pretty stable in flight. It's very simple, but if you want to do some manoeuvring when you're in orbit, that's quite fine, particularly if you're near other spacecraft and you don't want to crash straight into them. You can have RCS, which is basically just tiny little jets that fire out to propel you in whichever direction you choose. You just control it the same way, but you turn it on and off for it to have effect. And even though you have these here and all of this fuel, it uses its own separate type of fuel, and that's something that houses it. I like to try and hide things like this. I don't really want to stick it out of the sides, try and hide it, but it is not going to matter for this. So I'm just going to plonk them there. Oh, it would be nice if they are central there. Okay. And also, you've got to think about when you want to return your astronauts. You don't want them just in this huge rocket falling back into Earth. It's going to be quite dangerous. So what's been done quite a lot in the past, especially with the Apollo missions, which this one resembles the most. That's why I refer to that. The return module will come off at the last moment, and I think we'll give that a parachute, just for a nice slow descent and soft landing. Okay, so rocket, we want that to turn on. Then we want these to come loose. Then we want this to come loose. But we're not going to want all of these to go in at once. We want that first. Then right at the end we want that to come off, and then those to deploy. And unless I'm mistaken, that's got all the minimum requirements really. There's lots of other things you can do, like you can add solar panels to them so you can capture more power, the batteries to store it, and then the things like lights, which it's mostly just because it looks cool, but at night time, if you're on the surface of another planet, they are quite handy. There's these strut connectors you can use to try and keep things together a bit better, and there's lots of trusses and things if you want to extend and build into other places. It's probably best to keep away from the more complicated things to start with, but eventually you'll come to depend on all of them. And I think that's ready. Let's just do it. Let's give it a name. Rocket 1. As you can tell, I'm not the best at naming things. Let's launch this.